In this one, I want to go over the strongest and easiest build to play in the entirety of Destiny. As you saw from the thumbnail, this is going to be a poison based build. I know a lot of you all love the poison build, and it's even better than what it once was when it first came out. There are so many new things to play into it, and all you really have to do is just sit back, shoot your gun, and just watch everything die. And with this build, you're going to have insane dot damage paired with some of the best crowd control, a permanent 60% damage reduction, and even a permanent 17% weapon damage increase. Just by killing one enemy can pretty much start a chain reaction to kill everything else around it, and you literally don't have to do anything. So if that sounds interesting to you, this is definitely a build I would recommend checking out. Really quick though, I am on the road to 40,000 subscribers, so if y'all enjoy learning anything new, consider subscribing and dropping a like. It really goes a long way, and all the support from y'all is truly appreciated. And finally, if you would like to see an in-depth infographic of this build, be sure to head over to Mobile Links. I will link everything down below, and you can look at that while I go over everything in the video. But without further ado, let's go over one of the craziest builds in Destiny 2. All right, so jump right into it. I first want to start off taking a look at how poison is going to work with this build. We're going to be running the exotic, the Striga. This has the exotic perk Screaming Swarm. Fires a swarm of sentient toxic projectiles that track the targeted enemy. This also has the perk Toxic Overload. Landing a final blow or multiple precision hits triggers a burst that poisons nearby targets. And finally, if you have the catalyst, poison final blows will return ammo to the magazine. So this exotic is extremely easy to use. The bullets literally track for you, and you barely have to aim the thing. What's really cool, if you do get a kill, it will make that poison burst that will poison enemies around it, and they will slowly die over time. That tick damage from the poison actually does tick up, so it makes it really good for in-game content when targets have a lot more health. And then also with the catalyst, what's really cool is if poison does kill those enemies, you will overflow the magazine, and you can get up to like 100 rounds in this thing. The other added little benefits is that if you do hit multiple precision shots with this weapon, it will make a poison burst as well, so that can kind of kill enemies around a boss. But on top of that, this is an exotic primary, so it's going to do that 40% increased damage to red bars, so it makes this an ad clearing machine. But it doesn't end there. If we actually pair that with our necrotic grip exotic, this has the exotic perk Grasp of the Devourer. Damaging combatants poisons them, dealing increasing damage over time. Defeating a poison combatant spreads the condition. Provides a moderate benefit to the airborne effectiveness stat of all weapons of sorrow. Now the AE part of this exotic doesn't matter, but the main part is if you do melee an enemy, it will apply poison to them, which again will tick up doing increased damage if they die, but when they die, it will spread poison. What's really cool with the necrotic grip is if that poison that spreads kills other enemies, they will also spread poison. So it is just a chain reaction that can go on forever, and if there are enemies around everywhere, you will always have additional dot damage being applied to them. What's really cool though is the synergy is that you can pair necrotic grip with Striga, and now your gun will also spread this same poison. Just simply getting one kill with a gun can obliterate an entire room over time, and it is very, very strong. And the cool part about it is we're not even done there. Now another recommendation, you could take Thorn over Striga since it does have the same poison base effect, but in my opinion, Striga is just better overall, and it just pairs super well with necrotic grip. But now let's jump to the subclass, and let's talk about how this is going to perform even better. First off, let's take a look at our aspect, Mind Spent Invocation. This will essentially make our grenades do their own unique effects, with it being consuming them or using the grapple. But we're mainly going to take a look at Shackle, because that's going to be our main grenade we run. With the Shackle grenade, this is hold to consume your Shackle grenade and activate Weaver's Trance. Final blows while Weaver's Trance is active creates a suspending detonation. So every single time that poison is spreading and killing enemies, it is activating Mind Spent Invocation or Weaver's Trance to make that suspending burst. This will keep enemies locked in place so they can't shoot you while they're just slowly dying over time, and you can have pretty much 100% uptime of Weaver's Trance if you are playing around the build correctly. Now for my other aspect, I am going to be running the Wanderer, so tangles that you throw attach to targets detonate into a suspending burst. Threatening final blows can create a tangle. The main reason I'm running this is just if I do pick up a tangle, I can suspend enemies even more. Now if you don't want to take this, you can also take Weaver's Call, so every time you put a rift down, you can make some threatenings, but the threatenings don't do too much, and I think every now and then if you can pick up a tangle to suspend enemies, it will be a little bit better. But honestly, for this build, both of these aspects just kind of help out very, 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 very little, so you can just kind of pick out which one that you want to run, and they'll do about the same for you. The main star of the show is definitely Weaver's Trance with Mind Spent Invocation. But now let's talk about our melee arcane needle. So sling a woven needle that will embed in your targets, unraveling them. Activate your melee ability again to chain up to 2 additional attacks. Now the chaining of the melee ability doesn't matter whatsoever. The main thing is you can embed this needle to make them unraveled. Unraveled means when you're doing damage to the unraveled target, it will send out these little seekers, kind of looks like Outbreak Perfected in a way. They're just green, and they will do some additional additional damage. These will last forever if you keep doing damage, and since your poison is causing dot damage, you're always doing damage to this target all the time. So unravel will literally never go away until everything is dead. Since it's spreading like crazy, the poison's also spreading like crazy, and it adds an additional aspect of this build to just do even more damage. Now, I would always recommend taking Healing Rift for this build because this will help out your survivability with some of our fragments, and then also Needle Storm. Just want to talk about it for a second. It is a very good super for just doing some extra damage. It's also really good for ad clear, but if you're going into a boss fight, just throw your Needle Storm and then start doing damage with whatever you are running. But now getting into fragments, let's take a look at Threat of Mind. So defeating suspended targets grants class ability energy. This is going to be really nice since we're going to suspend enemies all the time. We're going to get pretty much infinite healing rifts, and you don't really have to be focused on recovery at all. This is where I would recommend if you want to take Weaver's Call, since you will have a bunch of rifts, you can to make those threat links. But again, I still just like taking the new aspect and being able to suspend some targets every now and then, even though again, they're still both not amazing. I did end up trying to take the Wanderer in something like Threat of Fury, so when I damage targets with Tingle, I get some melee energy. But overall, after testing that for a while, I still think Threat of Mind is better, just so you can always have healing rifts for your survivability. But now, speaking of survivability, let's take a look at our next one, Threat of Warding. So picking up an Orb of Power grants Wolf Meld. This is one of the most broken fragments in the entire game. There are orbs everywhere. You pick up an orb, you get 10 seconds of 60% reduced damage, and this can be reprocced over and over again every time you pick up another orb. So you just pretty much become unkillable. Now, our next fragment is Threat of Generation. So dealing damage generates grenade energy. This did receive a little nerf, but it's still extremely strong, and you pretty much always will have 100% of time of your stack grenade if you are spreading your poison and your unravel, and it is simply just what makes this build possible. And then finally, we have Threat of Continuity. So suspend, unravel, and sever effects applied to the target have increased duration. Since this build is heavily focused on suspend and obviously unravel, this just means they're going to last a lot longer, which makes the build even easier to use, and nothing will shoot you, and you can do a little additional damage for a longer time. Now, for stat distribution on this build, I would highly recommend 100 Resilience, so you can get that 30% damage reduction. This is pretty much standard in almost every single build in the game, and then 100 Discipline, so you can get your Weaver's Strength proc at all times. If you have any extra energy, I would highly recommend 100 Strength, so you can throw out your Arcane Needles. You already have 3 charges of Arcane Needle, and you only really need to use 1 from time to time. So even if you don't have 100, it's not that bad, but if you get to it, it's definitely going to be a little bit better. And then weapons for the build, the main thing is Osteo's Trigger. This is just going to be for your ad clear, but for just any other damage scenario, things like Apex Predators, any meta weapon is going to be your best option for DPS. Even the iterative loop is really good, or you could even just take things that's in your artifact so you can stun champions with whatever content you're playing. But now, speaking of artifact, this is a build that doesn't really require much of them. Things like improved unraveling, so you increase the amount of damage dealt by unraveling a target, is nice, but it doesn't matter too much. I would definitely recommend taking it, but literally everything else is just kind of for other stuff. The other things like Strain Soldier, you're not using a strain weapon, so you can't take advantage. And also with Conducted Cosmic Needle, this is nice, but you're not running Arc Void, so you're not going to be doing increased damage. So really, improved unraveling is like the only thing worth it. Things like Counter Charge is nice, so you can get an armor charge when you stun a champion, and Squad Goals is the only other real interesting one. So when you perform a finisher while you have Woven Meld, it grants Woven Meld to nearby allies when your Strand subclass is equipped. So with this, you can kind of provide Woven Meld to your teammates all the time, which kind of makes it to a supportive base role, and obviously Woven Meld is one of the strongest things in the game, so this could be really, really good. But now let's jump over into armor, and I'm going to be running a kinetic siphon so I can make orbs of power on rapid kinetic weapon final blows. So my Osteo Sugar will make orbs, but this is going to be really good because you'll get armor charge, you get some super energy, and it will also play into some of our mods later down the line. I'm also going to be running a heavy ammo finder, so this can increase the drop chance of heavy ammo. This is amplified if you run an exotic primary, which again, Osteo Sugar, you're going to spawn even more heavy, which is really, really nice. And I do run a hands-on, so this will give me some bonus super energy on melee kills. You don't have to run this. This is just kind of what I had on because I was playing a lot of this stuff solo, but if you're playing in a team, I would highly recommend Heavy Ammo Scout, so every single time you make heavy ammo with Heavy Ammo Finder, you can also make it for your teammates. So definitely be sure to swap that in and out if you're playing with a team. Now on your gauntlets, I'm going to be running a bolstering detonation, which grants me class ability energy when I do damage with a grenade, and a momentum transfer, which grants me melee cooldown when I do damage with a grenade. What's really cool about these two is that Weaver's Trance actually will proc these mods. It does technically count as grenade damage, and it will even proc things like Ashes to Assets if you are in lower tier content, but in reality that spin's never going to kill anything. But since these are based on hit, you will always be getting these proc every single time they're off cooldown, getting that class ability and melee back, which is really nice for the build. I also do running impact induction, so when I cause damage with a melee attack, I reduce my grenade cooldown. Since you're always trying to unravel targets, this can just give you a little bump to your shackle grenade energy, so you can always have Weaver's Trance up. Now for your chest piece, always run resistant mods. These are just by far the best in slot for anything you're doing. You just become even more tanky and nothing else really matters too much. And then for my boots, I do like to run 1 recuperation so I can replenish some health whenever I pick up an orb of power. So this just means now when I pick up an orb, I'm getting health and Woven ML, which is again that 60% damage reduction. So it really does help out with being able to not die. And then my other 2 mods, I do run 2 kinetic weapon surges because this will increase my osteo trigger damage by 17%, and this does take advantage of armor charge, and it will add a countdown to the armor charge, which is 10 seconds, but we're actually going to buff that up to 15 because of time dilation. So your decay and armor charge has a longer duration. So this just means now you can have 3 stacks of armor charge at 15 seconds, so a total of 45 seconds of 17% increased damage. And that's really good since your osteo trigger is going to be doing a lot of damage. And then what's left of the class item, I do run a bomber so I can reduce my grenade cooldown when I use my class ability. Since I can spam it a lot, this is really good to get my Weaver's Trance back up. And I also have a proximity ward so I can gain a powerful overshield when I do finishers. I figured this will pair really well with the squad goals artifact perk, so I can always generate Wolf ML, and this will help me get out of a fight easier. But even if you want to swap this out for something like outreach so you can regenerate some melee cooldown, since you're going to be using your arcane needle a lot as well, you can definitely do that. But this is kind of, again, up to you, just like how hands-on is. It just kind of depends on if you're playing with a team or if you're playing solo. But that is pretty much the build. All you really have to do is make sure you pop Weaver's Trance minus magnification, throw your arcane needle out, and then just start going to town with osteo trigger. Everything else kind of does everything for you. Occasionally, be sure to remember to pick up orbs so you can get that damage reduction and damage increase with your weapon. Everything else in the background is giving you cooldown rate for your grenade and class ability. Everything's just kind of lasting longer. You have a good super as well. Again, your mods just also kind of in the background, just giving you passive regeneration, so you can always keep that unravel and Weaver's Trance up all the time. And like I said in the beginning, it is so easy. It is super strong. All you have to remember, again, pop that Weaver's Trance, throw your arcane needle, and just watch everything die. Now, like I do at the end of all these videos, this is the Transmog I'm running on my Warlock. If you would like to look at it, I'm taking advantage of the new dungeon helmet because it looks absolutely sick. And I still personally believe that the Necrotic Grip base ornament is still just the coolest. They have other ornaments for it, but I just love the poison effect. And I'm pairing that with the Iron Banner bond, so you can kind of match the little like green toxic flame poison thing. But regardless, if you want to make your Warlock look like this, here you go, and be sure to copy it down. But all right, I think that's going to do it all for me. Let me know what y'all think about the poison build. Have you been running a build like this? And if you haven't, did watching this video make you want to try it out? It is really strong. It's super easy to play. It's also really fun just to kind of watch everything slowly die over time, even in harder end content. And it's honestly a build I would recommend for newer players if you were just getting into Destiny. Anyways, though, if you all like to see a specific build, be sure to comment down below what you want me to work on next. And as always, I really hope you all enjoy. Thank you all so much for watching this one, and have a great day. Peace.